Hey everybody! Welcome to True Crime and Wine Time Live. We are your hosts. I'm the consistent host JT, and we have our special guest producer host extraordinaire. I'm pointing the wrong way.
That's true. I'm over here.
It's Tara. Hello, Tara.
It is. Hello. I heard you guys have not had enough of me yet. I'm just kidding.
Come on, is that possible? I think not.
I'm just kidding. The lovely Terry is having the night off, so I gladly stepped in for her tonight. So I don't have my pink on. I'm sorry, everybody.
I appreciate that you said gladly.
Yeah.
That was a very nice way to say that. Oh man!
I'll blink twice.
Well,
everybody.
Oh,
blinking.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
Blinking.
You can't see that she's chained to the chair.
Morse code.
Just as a reminder, please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and whatever else you need to do to help the algorithm out. I really hate saying that word algorithm. It's like saying Riz. Why? But for some reason it helps. Who know? I don't know. So please hit that like and subscribe and share it too. That's super helpful as well. So if you weren't with us last week, we announced, well, we probably announced one of them for a couple of weeks now, but we have live shows, which is wild. So just as a reminder for you all, you might not be able to, you might not live in Austin, Texas. You might not live in Marion, Ohio. However, members of this channel are going to get to watch the in-person live as a stream.
Yeah.
As one of those thank yous for subscribing. So just remember that. On May 3rd, we're going to be at Hamilton Pool Vineyards and Farms in Austin, Texas, where Terry and I are going to do a deep dive into the unsolved case of Austin Yogurt Shop murders. Tickets are going fast, so hop to that. It's also a much bigger event than it initially was. It is a pre-Cinco de Mayo, or as my theater teacher in high school used to say, Cinco de Hoo-Ha. And so they're going to have a whole bunch of stuff there to do, and we're going to be there from 12 till 5. And then Blend of Seven Winery in Marion, Ohio. We're going to be there July 19th, and we're going to be looking into the puzzling disappearance and death of Joey LaBute. And I'm pretty sure. Yes,
I'll be there.
And producer Tara's there. And I think AP Amy might be coming. And I think Papa Bruce Crime and Mama Bruce Crime are going to be there, maybe. So there's a lot that's happening.
It's going to be a party in Ohio. Yeah.
Listen, my mom's family's big, and some of them live in Columbus. And if they don't show out, I'm going to be very disappointed.
Right?
So,
two shows.
Clip that and send it to them. And you can find the links to purchase your tickets in this video's description. And if they're not there, I will put them there. Somebody will let me know, I am sure. So thank you so much. If you have any potential show locations, please send them to Tara at tcwtmedia.com. We are looking at all kinds of places. They don't have to be wineries or vineyards. They could be breweries. They could be distilleries. It could be meaderies. Good Lord. We will look at most things.
As long
not
as they
all
have
things,
booze.
but most.
really.
Yeah. I've been really kind of. I've been pushing for hot topics, but that doesn't seem to be going well. So, too dark, I guess. I don't know. But yeah. So there's your announcements from me.
Oh, nice. Well, if you haven't become a member of our YouTube channel, True Crime and Wine Time, be sure to join today. It's as simple as clicking the fancy schmancy join button right there. You see that red circle? Click that. Cool. And you get to pick which tier best suits you. We have some exciting members only content coming up. As JT said, access to our live events. I know JT and Terry have another special members only, April 18th at 9. If you missed the last one, become a member. You can still watch it. It's still there, and it's pretty freaking funny. And I am working on some ideas of some Zizian members only coverage. So we'll have to see what happens, but fun is just a click away. So join now, please. Thank you.
Yes, please. You have no idea what you're going to hear during the members only streams. It could be quite literally anything. We found that out a Friday ago. So you
That's
are missing
true.
out. So definitely hit the join
Yes.
button for sure.
And speaking of those wild and crazy Zizians, we will be back this Sunday, April 6th at 9 p.m. Eastern with episode 5 of our multi-part series, Zizians Unveiled. This multi-part deep dive exposes the chilling truth behind the Zizian cult, a radical mix of trans vegan rationalist anarchists who have left a trail of bodies stretching coast to coast. This is without a doubt the most bizarre and complex true crime case I've ever encountered. And with new details coming out every day, the story just keeps getting wilder and wilder. So, and if you haven't had a chance to watch it yet, or you need to get caught up, you can find all of that under this channel's live section or in our curated playlist, The Zizians. You do not want to miss a second of the Zizian story. If you think you know what happens, you don't. There's so many things. And this episode Sunday is going to be a doozy. Things are going to start getting real dark real quick.
Yes. Thank you, Lady in Gray, for gifting 5 memberships. And congrats to Happy Bath Bar, Hello Kitty. Oh, Hello Kitty. Sandy Bowers and Purple Pancreas. Ooh, you might need to see a doctor. And then Mimi to 7.
That doesn't sound great.
Yikes. So definitely say hello, y'all, if because I guess you got to be watching it in order to get a membership, right?
No, that's not how that works.
Oh, well, I don't know how this works. This is why we have producer Tara and AP Amy and everybody else who's smarter than me. So I know who to surround myself with, damn it.
That's right. You're a beauty and brains. Some days.
Oh.
Some days. Well, with that,
You're not kidding.
Let's get into it. So let's get into what we're drinking and why we're excited to talk about this case tonight.
Yeah. So for tonight, I chose a wine that seems appropriate by the name. And the wine is called Icon, because we are indeed talking about an icon tonight. And it's
label.
a Moscato. Yeah, me too. It's like very
cool.
Great Gatsby, you know.
Very art deco.
So art deco. I saw it and I didn't really pay attention other than to just buy the type of wine that I wanted for tonight, and I hadn't had a Moscato in weeks. Anyway, so I chose that, which honestly, no Moscato should have this, but it has a 17% ABV, which is buck wild for a Moscato. And I say that because I'll be buck wild by the end of the show. It is correct. There are some notes of pineapple, some, it's citrus and honeysuckle. There is a honeysuckle. So there is kind of like a honey feel to it. You're right. It's almost like a mead. But their description says it's the perfect wine addition to any event you have planned. And then I added, that event, sexual healing. So let's talk about why I'm interested, shall I? I've always felt drawn to cases like this where kind of the public legacy of someone we admire crashes up against the private pain that they're experiencing. And it's not because it's something to stare at, but it is always interesting to experience like these celebrities that we put on these pedestals, but their humanity. With the anniversary of Marvin's death, not just 2 days ago, it feels especially important to kind of take time and reflect on who he was and what he meant to many and what we can learn from that tragedy that took him away. And it's, I guess it's a good thing to honor the legacy while shining light on what ended his life, because they're very, very real issues. And it's interesting because obviously I'm a little on the younger side and his heyday was not my day. But for the folks that I've talked to whose heyday was that day, they did not remember how Marvin Gaye died at all. It is interesting.
There she is, the queen of the show, Tara True Crime. Hello, lovelies.
We promise to do it the correct way. I promise.
We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Anyways, so gummy bears, huh? All right. Listen, gummy bears, great. Just don't go streaming. We'll be fine.
It's true.
All right, Tara, what you got?
Well, tonight I'm finishing off my bag of wine from our Sunday show. Again, if you don't get that joke, you're going to have to go watch because it was a disaster with my wine this Sunday.
No, so I'm not.
The whole box fell apart. It was the whole thing. So I'm finishing that up. And then I got, it's not themed with the show, which, yeah, that's okay. But anyway, I have a Yosemite Road also Moscato because we're getting wine drunk tonight, apparently. This was not planned.
Right.
But mine is not 17%. I'm sure it's a reasonable 10%. But I got 4 bottles of them, so there's that. So I'm really excited to talk about this tonight because, like, I mean, I obviously know who Marvin Gaye is and was, and know much of his music. Like, I haven't lived under a rock for the last several decades. And, you know, I knew that he was murdered, but I didn't really know any of the details about it. You know, before researching this, I didn't know about the family dynamics and the dysfunction. I didn't know his really serious struggles with mental health. I guess I didn't really know how utterly tragic this whole case really is. I know I learned a lot researching this, and I hope you all find this as fascinating as I do. So yeah, I guess with that, let's begin, shall we? Does that sound great to everybody? Yeah. All right, buckle up. Get your wine in hand, your slippers on. Let's go. All right. So we're going to start with a little background of Marvin Gaye tonight. So Marvin Pence Gaye Jr. was known as the Prince of Soul. I know. Look at those cheeks. How adorable is he in his little suit? Adorable. Anyway, so he was known as the Prince of Soul. He was born April 2nd, 1939 in Washington, D.C., to his church minister dad, Marvin Gaye Sr., and Alberta Gaye. Now, the family was very religious, and we'll get into that later. And they were part of this very conservative church called the House of God, and they had a very strict code of conduct. But Marvin started singing in this church when he was just about 4 years old and fell in love with singing. That is a current picture of the church, but look at the little dog there. I included it because it had the puppy.
Kind of looks like Zoe.
She would photobomb a Google car. She would.
Don't even mention her name. She was probably just telling her she had to go out.
Right. So at age 11, Marvin performed in a school play singing Mario Lanza's Be My Love, which I don't know if you guys have heard that. I listened to that for the first time the other day, and I thought that was really good. Never heard that song before. In junior high, Marvin joined the Glee Club and became a star. There he is in his little junior high. Very cute.
What a champ.
And then in high school, joined several doo-wop vocal groups. Oh, I thought you had something to say there. I'm sorry.
Well, I honestly, I was trying to think about whether I wanted to say it or not, but the kid next to him does not look as happy to be there.
No, he doesn't. I saw that too, and I was like, "Ooh, he looks."
I don't know whether he's angry or cross-eyed. It could be both. Maybe none. Not sure.
And then the other kid on the next to him looks like very funny. I love school pictures. They're great.
Where's my Tommy gun? Yeah.
So at the age of 17, Marvin sought an escape, and he dropped out of high school and enlisted in the United States Air Force. Apparently, though, his superiors considered him uncooperative and lackadaisical, which, sure.
Describes all of us.
Right. The Air Force was not quite the escape that Marvin had hoped it would be. And he decided to fake being mentally ill. And after 1 year of service was given a general discharge. it's actually really ironic that he was discharged for faking a mental illness when he very much has a lot of them later on in his life. And maybe even then too. I mean, growing up in this environment that he did that we'll learn about, I wouldn't have been surprised if there was stuff going on at that time. But anyway, so he's out of the Air Force. He's back. He decides to form a vocal quartet called the Marquis. The group performed around the DC area, and soon they began working with Bo Diddley. The group signed with a record label, but after their sole single, which Bo Diddley helped write, failed to hit the charts, the record label terminated their contract.
I just want to say this. When I was reading up on Marvin Gaye and realized that he worked tightly with Bo Diddley, I've actually seen Bo Diddley. I saw him back in like 07, 06. He was playing at my college, and I remember sitting in like the 6th row watching this man play guitar, and he was most assuredly, I would need to do the math on how old he was, but he was the dirtiest old man that I'd ever met, because he would like play and strum, and then he'd start making stuff up. But I mean, like, as an artist, he's like foundational for a lot of different things. So I wanted to go see him because, you know, as an artist and a guitarist, it's just fantastic. But he is a character, that fella, for sure.
Seems like a lot of these guys from this era and generation are characters, to say the least. But what a time to be alive for music, though. I'll tell you what.
Right.
This list of people is crazy that he is involved with. So So during this time when he's with the Marquis here, Marvin started composing some of his own music, which I always find composing fascinating. I don't understand how people can do that. And what a skill that is my brain can't even handle it. So the Marquis would eventually go to work for Harvey Fuqua. How fun is that to say, you guys? Fuqua. I love it. Fuqua. So Fuqua is the co-founder of the Moonglows. And with Harvey's help, they changed their name to Harvey and the Moonglows. I like the Moonglows.
I like that.
Anyway, and they up and moved to Chicago. So the new group, Harvey and the Moonglows, recorded several songs for Chess Records in 1959. Marvin's first lead vocal recording was on that Chess label and was Mama Lucci or Lucy. I don't know which one it is. I'm going to be honest. Chat can correct me. I think it's Lucy.
Yeah.
It's Loocie, if anybody. I should have Googled that before the show, but here we are.
If it's Lucci, they did it wrong. So we'll just say that.
Right? Whatever. Anyway, so the band was able to find work as session singers for artists like Chuck Berry. Who? I freaking love Chuck Berry. Okay. And what is your favorite Chuck Berry song? And why is it My Ding-a-ling? So you all may not even know that Chuck Berry does that song, but funny side story real quick. So growing up, every year for Christmas, my aunt would insist on playing this on my grandparents' record player, like growing, like till I was at least like 14 or 15. And I'm still surprised decades later that my Puritan like grandparents like even allowed it. I can't even believe they went for it. But
just like, I just imagine like grandma pretending she's deaf and grandpa pouring more eggnog like it's going to erase the memory. And then like, honestly, it's kind of more shocking than Chuck Berry somehow became your family's accidental sex ed teacher.
Well, I'm from the country in Ohio. So, you know.
Yeah, well, okay. But, you know, I mean, like, it, yeah, you know, the joke aged poorly, just like Chuck did.
Oh, well.
Poor guy's been through a lot and put others through a lot. Still a fantastic guitarist and musician.
Dude, I mean, he's like the king of rock and roll, right? I'm pretty sure. Like, that's his moniker, is the king of rock and roll. Well with the
nothing
exception of My Ding-a-ling, I wouldn't call that a rock song. But anyway, enough about Chuck Berry. as if there could be enough, but we'll do a different show about Chuck Berry some other time, I guess. Anyway, so, but
Good.
the band, Harvey and the Moonglows, they did not last. And they broke up in 1960. Very disappointing. So Marvin, along with Harvey Fuqua, left Chicago and moved to Detroit, Michigan, where Marvin's life changed for good. It's not usually when people happen to people when they move to Detroit, Michigan, but okay. I guess this would have been around the height of Detroit, Michigan, actually, now that I look at the date. So it was a bump in place.
Yeah, it was very tall.
Yeah. While working as a session musician, Marvin played at a house party for Motown's president, Berry Gordy.
It's I think it's absolutely amazing how he literally could have been like singing on records and in groups for decades and never have advanced. And this one moment in time, this one time he said, "Yeah, sure. This is what happens." So,
right? So Barry liked what he heard from Marvin. And after negotiating with Harvey and buying him out of his contract with Marvin, Barry signed Marvin up with the Motown subsidiary Tamla. So in May of 1961, Marvin released his first single, "Let Your Conscience Be Your Guide," as part of the album The Soulful Moods of Marvin Gaye. Look at that. Look at that album cover.
Oh, that also had My Funny Valentine. Holy cow. That's a great album. Nice.
Yeah, so sadly though, the album did not perform, and he spent much of 1961 performing session work as a drummer, which I didn't know. He was a drummer too. I guess maybe you need to play a bunch of instruments to be like a composer.
That session, yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense now that I think about it. I'm not musically inclined, in case nobody's put that together yet. I played the clarinet in school. That's about it. So, anyway. In 1962, he found some mild success, though, as a co-songwriter of the Marvelettes track. The name of the song is Beechwood 4-5789, on which he also played the drums. By the way, I hadn't heard that song either. And I think it's a phone number because she's like, "Call me Beechwood 45789 or something." I also can't sing. So there's that. You're welcome.
I think that they are the cutest trio. They're adorable. I love it.
You're super cute.
Right.
So his first solo hit was in September 1962 with The Stubborn Kind of Fellow, which reached number 8 on the charts. So we're getting there, pretty good.
Yeah.
So he then released Hitchhike, which is a dance song that he also co-wrote, which became his first top 40 pop single. Remember they used to do all those Billboard. Do they still do Billboard things nowadays?
Billboard still does stuff. It's just like, it's really hard. I'm assuming they had to recalculate how they went about doing that, just because
the way music
but
is available. Yeah, that's why I asked. Like, do they even just Spotify took over for Billboard music or something?
I'm assuming they take like all the download numbers and average them, but that's why I don't work for Billboard.
What is he playing there in that photo? Sorry, side note. By the way, if you're just listening on the podcast, you should come to the YouTube channel. We have visuals. Why is the flute bent like that?
What is that about? It's not him, but it is part of the Motortown review. And I know this because that's a picture that I looked up. I actually don't really know. It is a the captain says it's the smallest sax ever. It is very much played like a flute, but it looks like it might be a baritone flute of some sort.
Wow.
Good night,
That's
Terry.
Interesting. I'm going to add that to my list of things to look into sometime. Anyway, so this success led Marvin to joining the Motortown Review, which was a package of concert tours for Motown artists. In 1963, Marvin released his first top 10 single, Pride and Joy. Marvin continued to grow with his album that he did with Mary Wells. Oh. Then Marvin married Anna Gordy. I'm pretty sure that's Barry's sister.
Yes.
Oh, yes, the sister of Barry Gordy. In June of 1963. She was 17 years older than him. Get it, girl.
She looks great.
She looks fantastic.
Like, I want to know your routine, please, because I'm pretty sure I look way worse now. So
I have my theories of why he paired up with her. I think
yeah,
it kind of reminded her of his mom in a way. He's kind of a mommy's boy in a beautiful way. I do not mean that in a bad way.
Yes.
But
no.
I think that might have been a thing, but I don't know that to be true. Just my vibes.
I can agree. I mean, there's a level of we're going to get into this in the next section, but there's a level of his mom really took care of him, and I think that's what he was looking for when he left the house. Somebody to kind of reinforce like some positivity and take care and things like that. And I do think you're right.
Yeah. So they got married. Marvin decided to stop writing after this and focused on singing tracks written by other writers. One of these songs became the hit "How Sweet It Is to Be Loved by You."
Love that song.
Love that song so much. Marvin then began working with the one and only Smokey Robinson, and their partnership was a hit for Marvin because, of course, Marvin hit his first single to sell 1 million copies, you guys, which, in case you didn't know, is a big deal. And I am sure it is a big deal in what year are we in? Like 1964? Like, that's a big deal.
Yeah. Obviously, it wasn't like you could click download. You had to get up. You had to get into a car, or you had to walk to a record store. You had to pick up the record. So it was very much, it's very much a lot more difficult to make those records. So
yeah, and your town had to have a record store. You're
right. Captain said to fonts. Correct. I did not create this. I borrowed it.
So Marvin still wanted to be a jazz singer and went on to record the jazz albums "When I'm Alone, I Cry" and "Hello Broadway," which was a tribute to the great Nat King Cole. And sadly, none of them did really well, which, bummer. But, if we learn one thing from this story, right, is Marvin strikes out a lot, all right? But he keeps going and it works out. So I think we have something to learn from him on this. All right. So in 1968, Marvin sang the national anthem at Game 4 of the 1968 World Series, which is also a big freaking deal, considering the time period and his popularity at the time. Big deal.
Yes.
So, look, here we go. It's very true. Look at that. Good job, Marvin. I heard he changed that up a lot, added some different styles to it. I don't know if it was well received or not, but I saw an interview with him.
I don't know. I just enjoy how clean his voice is,
Yeah.
It's cool.
So full. That's why he's the king of soul. Prince of soul. Not king of soul. Prince. Anyway.
It's fine.
So 1968 was a good year for Marvin. Thank goodness. He had his first #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 for I Heard It Through the Grapevine, which we all know. I keep wanting to go into song and then be like, Tara, you're live. Do not go into song right now. Nobody wants to hear that. Anyway.
Through the grapevine.
There you go. And that went on to sell over 4 million copies that year alone, which is crazy. So he continued
So
making
high.
music. That's crap ton, right? He continued making music even though he felt he did not deserve to be successful. And he would say often that he felt like a puppet, which, being in the music industry, a lot of people say that. But the fact that he said he didn't feel that he deserved to be successful, I would probably attribute that to the constant trauma from his childhood of not feeling worthy enough,
Yeah.
you know?
Yes.
So,
yes.
So he had his first album hit in 1969 titled MPG, which are his initials. Took me a second.
Right.
They're his initials. And Marvin's friend, Tammy Terrell, who he had collaborated with on numerous tracks like Ain't No Mountain High Enough and You're All I Need to Get By, which is one of my favorites, died in 1970. And Marvin sunk into a very big depression with her death. It did not go well for him.
Everybody wants you to sing, by the way.
No, I'm not drinking. This is why I cover the chat. I'm not going to listen to them. No, just kidding. I'm just kidding. Anyway, so I'm not going to sing, you guys. I haven't even drank that much yet. You know what? Maybe if you guys all become members of the channel, maybe I will appear in a members only and sing for you guys. Deal? Maybe we'll make that deal sometime. We'll see. So anyway, in 1970, oh wait, let me back up for a second because this part is very weird to me because I don't quite get how we went from here to here, but here we are. So Marvin decided during this depression after, the death of Tammy that he wanted to be on a professional football team. So the Detroit Lions liked the publicity that this caused, but declined to have Marvin try out for the team, saying that he feared he would get injured and end his music career. I'm also guessing they didn't need a football player who was also a recording star. Did he have any history of playing football? Because it doesn't sound like it to me. But we all have dreams,
sure didn't
right?
read anything about it.
Me either.
I mean, but he was a 6'1" big dude. So I mean, at that point in time, it sure as heck it could have worked, I guess. I'm kind of glad it didn't, but also, could sports have actually kind of helped combat the whole depression thing? I don't know.
It could have, and everyone back then for football wasn't built like a brick shit house like they are today. So,
Right. Correct.
But, we all have different dreams. Apparently his was to be on the NFL, but it did not work out. They said no. I wonder if they gave him season tickets or something. Anyway.
I would automatically give him season tickets.
Right? I mean, that's great publicity to get people to come to the games, right? Marvin's there. Yeah.
Right.
You want me to try out for the Lions? Yes. Well, okay.
You could be a kicker.
I guess there could be worse teams. A kicker. I wasn't even great.
I'm sorry, do you want to be a lineman? So. Would you like to be a lineman?
What position would I play? I don't even know all the names. You want to hear an embarrassing story? This is totally, I can't believe it's a side note. It has nothing to do, but it has to do with football, so it's kind of relevant. So it wasn't until I was in my 20s when we were watching an OSU game or something like that. And I had always thought that the lines of first downs, right? Those lines that they put, the orange and yellow ones, right? I thought that those were on the field. And I was always confused, how people didn't trip over this line, that they would just keep moving down the field. I was seriously probably 24 years old before somebody was like, what? No, that if you're at the game, that you don't see that. And I was like, well, how is anybody supposed to know? Anyway. Very embarrassing story.
It's okay. I like the fact that Captain said you'd play tight end.
Yeah, she knows what's up. That's my girl. You're so pretty. Yeah, I don't like football. I don't know anything about football. Anyway, back to Marvin. In 1970, Marvin recorded What's Going On, one of his classics, when he was inspired by one of the Four Tops after witnessing an act of police brutality at an anti-war rally. Because this is Vietnam times, 1970. There's about to be the shooting at Kent State University in Ohio, not that far from Detroit, Michigan. So, but that had something to do with it. Actually, that might anyway. So Barry Gordon did not like the song because he felt it was too political and would ruin Marvin's career. Marvin held his ground and refused to release any new material until they released What's Going On. Well,
it's awesome.
Barry had to eat a lot of crow because that song reached #1 on the charts within a month and stayed there for 5 weeks. Suck it, Barry. Marvin then had to head into the studio and spent like the next 10 days recording the What's Going On album so that he could win creative control over Motown, because there's some music industry things going on at the time. That's a lot of legal stuff I would love to get into sometime, but now is not the time for that. Anyway, so the album was a huge success, and was Marvin's first album to sell 1 million copies and had 2 additional top 10 singles, which makes it basically a banger in 1970 terms. So this album was one of Motown's first albums to be formatted as rhythm and blues and soul music. Marvin won 2 Grammy Awards for this album and several NAACP Image Awards. The album also topped the Rolling Stones Year End list, and Billboard magazine named Marvin Gaye as the trendsetter of the year. Marvin was then given a new record deal. What's that?
I was like, come on, that's fantastic. That's awesome.
Barry was wrong. Hashtag Barry was wrong.
It's like getting slimed at the Nickelodeon Awards. Like, you've made it, Right.
Slimed at the Nickelodeon. Sorry, it took me a second. Like, wait, what? Oh, okay. That's so true. So Marvin was then given a new record deal with Motown worth, you guys ready for this? $1 million.
$1 million.
Making it the most money a Black recording artist made at that time. And I imagine for a lot of people, $1 million in 1970 something crazy. So in 1973, Marvin and his family moved to LA, leaving Detroit behind. In August of that year, Marvin released the Let's Get It On. There you go. That was for you, Captain. Album with the single for Let's Get It On, becoming Marvin's second #1 hit on the billboards. Another song on the album, You Sure Loved Ball, did not do as well as some radio stations refused to play the song because it was too sexual.
How was that too sexual, but Let's Get It On was choice? I'm confused.
Oh, because the word ball, male genitalia, I guess. We can't talk about it. I don't know. It did, however, still make it into the top 50. So snooze you lose. Marvin's success continued in the studio and on the stage. He also found international success by teaming up with the one and only Diana Ross. The Diana and Marvin group is what they called themselves. I mean, how fun of a show would that have been to see? Man, what a time to be alive. Wild.
It would have been awesome.
Yeah. Now, sadly, Marvin and his first wife, Anne, they split up and divorced in 1977. So that's kind of where we are going to leave off with Marvin for this part of the story. JT is going to share with us some stuff. Ooh.
Some stuff. I got the fun job. So we're gonna go back in time a little bit. We're gonna go back past Marvin Gaye Jr.'s birth to Marvin Gaye Sr. And I know that it's not always this way any longer, but Marvin Gaye Sr. really ran the dynamic of the family. He really impacted Marvin. And so while I know we don't typically go back to like a dad's history to then talk about our main topic's history, I think it plays a huge part in this story.
Yeah.
So, Marvin Pence Gaye Sr. was born on October 1st, 1914 in Jessamine County, Kentucky, and he was the eldest of 13 children, which
Wow.
at a, Bonnie Python said every sperm is sacred. So,
And from Kentucky, that's
early.
Just kidding, our
Right,
Kentucky fan.
early,
I'm just kidding. Just an Ohio joke. That's all. Love you guys.
right. Well, I mean, Ohio's just
place.
northern Kentucky.
It's a beautiful place.
Early years, he spent his early years in Lexington, Kentucky, where he did spend a majority of that early childhood. He was raised in a home where physical abuse was incredibly prevalent. He both watched and experienced beatings from his father, who also beat his mother and siblings. According to his eventual wife, Alberta, who was Marvin's mom, Senior's family life consisted of constant violence, which involved domestic abuse and shootings. She told the author David Ritz, who wrote one or two books about Marvin Gaye, it was basically gays against gays. So family didn't really enjoy themselves, apparently. This had a massive and profound impact on him, and it shaped many aspects of his later life. And as it sometimes happens, Senior and his mom, by the way, I'm going to call Marvin and Marvin Senior when I'm talking about this, just to make sure that we're, yeah.
Your grandmother's the oldest of 13? My grandparents came from huge families like that too. I think 12 and 9. Crazy.
Yeah, my dad's dad had like 6 or 7 brothers, and he ended up outliving them all. But yeah, big old family. That's a lot of boys.
I think I read about this woman. I want to say it was like in the 1800s. I want to say, somebody can Google it, but she had like 52 kids.
Holy cow.
Or maybe it was 32. 52 sounds egregious. I think it was 32. Somebody fact check me on it. But I was like, what? You were pregnant for like 30 years. It's crazy. Anyway.
4 octomoms. So I can't math.
Yeah, impressive.
So again, Senior and his mom found refuge in a house of religion. In this case, they became members of the House of God. Now, House of God's a Pentecostal church known for its, like Tara said, strict and devout practices. They receive criticisms for how charismatic they can be.
Oh, too much Riz. Never heard of that before.
Too much Riz. That's falling to the ground, moans and cries during worship services, speaking in tongues, anti-intellectualism, by the way, which is basically hostility and mistrust of intellectuals. So, don't ask me how that's the case. It is also one of the primary reasons for prosperity theology, by the way, which that's basically centered on the teaching of Christian faith as a means to enrich oneself financially. So see like Benny Hinn, Joel Osteen, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And if you don't know Joel Osteen, just imagine a horse with a person's face on it.
No, that guy. That guy.
He spends more money on his teeth than I have on my children. His affiliation with the House of God
True.
also played a significant role in his upbringing. Now, Senior eventually moved to Washington, D.C. in his late teens to pursue a career as a minister of a House of God church there. Now, while he was in Washington, Senior met his future wife, Alberta Cooper. Alberta was born in 1913. She was the daughter of Sam Cooper and Lucy Smith. In the 1930 census at age 17, she was listed as a farm laborer on Red Oak Whitaker's Road in Red Oak, Nash, North Carolina. He married Alberta July 2nd, 1935, and the two bought a small house in southeastern D.C., only a few blocks away from the Anacostia River. Alberta already had a son named Michael, but Gaye sent Michael to live, or Senior sent Michael to live with his sister-in-law, Pearl. And I really want to talk about this for a second. I want to talk about the audacity of Senior. He married Alberta knowing full well that she had a son named Michael. This wasn't like some surprise plot twist. But instead of stepping up as a partner or even just as a halfway decent human being, he shipped him off like he was some inconvenience to be stored away, not a child who deserved love and stability from, at the very least, his mother. It's selfishness wrapped up in a wedding ring. And while it may seem a tad harsh, get ready because you're going to understand why I'm frustrated about this in a moment.
Yeah, what's funny is the reason why he wanted to send him away is because Senior, who is this guy, did not believe in raising another man's child. That was it. He didn't believe in raising another man's child. And get this. So they sent Michael to go live with his aunt. He didn't find out that Alberta was his mom until he was a teenager. Yeah. Yeah. But also, Senior
there's
sucks.
A piece of me, like, far be it for me to judge, but there's a piece of me that thinks he kind of made out on that one.
I think he
wasn't exactly the easiest to.
So, I think once he found out that Alberta was his mom, he came back to live with them. Okay. And he stood up against Senior. He told Marvin he needed to start standing up to his father. And Senior was not happy with that and sent Michael to go live with Alberta's other sister, Ziola, I think that's her name.
Yeah.
But I thought that was very interesting.
So 2 years after they got married, they had their first kid, a daughter they named Jean. On April 2nd, 1939, they had their first son, Marvin Jr. Then their son, Frankie, and daughter Ziola followed shortly after.
I really like the name Ziola, you guys. It's getting added to my list of baby names.
I dig it too. It's really cool. It's unique. It's awesome. So in 1970, Senior had a son. Here's the part where you're like, what the fuck? In 1970, Senior had a son named Antoine Carey with another woman as a result of one of his extramarital affairs. That's right. I said one of. Hypocrisy personified, my friend.
Yeah. But you see, it was fine because, it's not another man's kid. It's fine. Alberta has to raise another woman's baby, but he can't do that. No. Gosh.
I can't. Somebody give me a frappuccino because I can't even.
This guy sucks.
So, according to Marvin, his father was known as a healer in the church. When he settled down, he became a minister. When Marvin was around 4 years old, he used to bring him to the church congregations and revivals to sing. At some point, he bought a secondhand piano at a rummage sale and coached his son in piano lessons. And Junior learned by playing, learned playing by ear, and it was one of the only stable times in their relationship. Now, Senior nurtured Junior's musical talents as long as he stuck with liturgical music. By the late 1940s, he left the House of God, Senior did, to join another sect called the House of the Living God, but soon returned to the House of God to head its board of apostles in the early 1950s. He then decided to leave the church altogether in the mid-1950s when he wasn't named chief apostle of the church, which is the adult equivalent of I'm taking my Bible and going home. He put up a hissy fit. Marvin said that at that point, that was when my father lost his healing powers. Senior could never hold a job for longer than 3 years. He worked in the post office and at Western Union, but then he had a back injury. And unfortunately, as it so often happens, Senior withdrew from social life, developed an addiction to alcohol, and started practicing cross-dressing. The last part of that's not as it so often happens. In fact, it's very out of left field. It is one of those things where you read it and you're like, hold on, can we go back? My eyeballs need to pay attention to what I just saw. I am not sure where this came from. And I'm far be it for me to judge. I'm not judging at all. I don't know his life, but I do feel like this was
came from
out of
Alberta.
left field.
It came from Alberta. Yeah, Alberta spoke about it in like an autobiography or something like that.
No, yeah. I know that that's where that came from, the information. I don't know where the thought to cross-dress came from.
Oh, yeah, and especially for the time, like that's, I mean, I guess people have been doing that for a very long time. That's stupid of me to say now that I think about it. Never mind. Moving on. So
I do know this much. This humiliated Marvin, who at the age of 12 saw his father dressing in his mother's clothes. Not only that, but his schoolmates found out about it as well. And his last name was Gay, and his father was cross-dressing. And you can only imagine how bad this was for him. The bullies were also giving him hell because of his dad's strict rules, too. Now, Marvin refused to be in the room with his father for quite some time. He also added, as the family was Gay, and he added an E to his last name, which it was said was due to quiet any rumors of his own sexual orientation, which is none of anyone's business. It was to emulate his idol, Sam Cooke, who also had the E at the end of his name, and it was to add more distance from his father. I think it had more to do with that last one than the first one. His father was terrible to him. And
to everybody, he's a monster.
Why do I tell you? Yes, why do I tell you all of that about his dad? Well, his relationship shaped Marvin, his psychology, it ultimately would end up being the end of his life. So I mentioned earlier that there were only a couple of times when he and when Senior and Marvin were somewhat close. In many, many accounts, Senior was described as strict and sometimes overbearing as a father to his kids. And I think this is an understatement. According to his kids, they would observe an extended Sabbath, which was every Saturday. He was very much against the idea of attending church on a Sunday. The Sabbath was a Saturday, and
Makes sense.
Railed against Christians who went to church on Sundays.
Do you think that's why he didn't get the archbishop position or whatever it was he was trying to get? And they're like, we have church on Sunday. That's why you didn't get it.
I just can't imagine him being fun to be around, honestly.
Oh, no. He sounds awful.
Yeah. So he would often also withhold food from his kids, claiming that it would bring them, quote, closer to God or the grave. I guess in a way it would. They're not eating. So, sure. Jean, their oldest daughter, said he was never someone who spared the rod. He was very, very strict. He would question his children on biblical passages, giving them beatings if they were wrong. And there was something across all of the kids, all the 4 kids. They all had problems with enuresis, which is bedwetting. And every child had a problem with this. And it can be psychological or physical reasons that it happens. Now, I'm going to go with psychological.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the problem with this is that bedwetting led to more beatings, which of course probably led to even more bedwetting. And it just made things worse.
Mm-hmm.
Marvin's sister Jean once again said that Marvin would receive the worst of it all. Senior's beatings were brutal. He would hit him for anything he did, as he perceived, incorrectly, by the way. And this included putting his hairbrush in the wrong place or coming home from school a minute late. Now, Marvin said, quote, it wasn't simply that my father beat me, though that was bad enough. By the time I was 12, there wasn't an inch on my body that hadn't been bruised and beaten by him. And Marvin also said, living with father was like living with a king, an all changeable, cruel, and all-powerful king. Marvin's mother said that Marvin's mother, this is not just the kids. Marvin's mother said that Senior hated Marvin. Something that she said again to David Ritz in 79. She said, my husband never wanted Marvin, and he never liked him. He used to say he didn't think he was really his child. I told him that was nonsense. He knew Marvin was his, but for some reason he didn't love Marvin. And what's worse, he didn't want me to love Marvin either. Marvin wasn't very old before he understood that. Now, bottom line, we'll go ahead.
I just want to put out a red flag warning for anyone out there that when your partner says he doesn't believe in taking care of another man's child and you think he's going to help you take care of yours and treat yours well, no. All right. Run from that guy, because he does not like kids. He does not give a shit about kids. He's not going to give a shit about his own kids. All right. Run. Do not make babies with somebody like that. Okay. Let's learn from Alberta's mistakes here. Run.
Yeah. So the bottom line was this was a very mean man who used any excuse to beat his son silly. When Marvin escaped and became successful with music, his father resented him even more. The more successful he got, the more he resented him. It was not great. And a lot of this had to do with Senior saying, I'm a man of God, but I'm not seeing nearly the success as my son is with this non-liturgical music, etc., etc., etc. He's jealous. It's ridiculous. And by the way, the reason Marvin left to go to the Air Force was to get away from his father.
Yeah.
And the reason why he wanted to leave the Air Force after he got away from his father was that he went into a place where there were more people like his father. So that was not
Yeah.
helpful. In terms of sibling dynamics, I really couldn't find much regarding those dynamics. Here's what I can say about this, and while it's more general, it is backed by research. And before I say that, I mean, you hear his siblings saying exactly what was going on in that house, and the fact that they're able to kind of come to his defense and back him
Mhm.
up and say it was this bad tells me that they probably were close. But typically in households of neglect and abuse, siblings will take care of each other, and they provide a level of comfort and support that they might not get elsewhere. And the sibling relationship could fall into one of four patterns, although this kind of is something that ebbs and flows. It's not always one or the other. And those four things are harmonious, hostile, distanced, and emotional intense. Now, the pattern depends, depending on how things go. The pattern kind of depends on the sibling constellation, which is literally the order in which siblings are born, but also to a large extent on the family environment. Of course, with that said, it was extremely evident that Marvin and his mother were everything to each other. And
Mhm.
I think there's one quote that is pivotal to his relationship with his mom. Quote, if it wasn't for mother who was always there to console me and praise me for my singing, I think I would have been one of those child suicides you read about in the papers, which is so sad. But
Yeah.
I'm so glad that our mother was there for him.
Yeah. Um, can you read my part real quick? It's raining. I have to go open a window real quick. Okay, I'll be right back.
Yeah. So Tara's going to get into this a little bit, but if it wasn't for so she's going to get more into the fame, addiction, and decline. But Marvin Gaye's descent into drug addiction wasn't a simple story. It was a tangled web of personal pain and the pressures of his extraordinary life. Now you can't really talk about it without acknowledging the deep wounds from his childhood, which is what I just went over. Now, and then I want you to imagine the devastating loss of Tammy Terrell in 1970. And that wasn't just a career setback. It was a profound emotional blow that sent him spiraling. And Tammy didn't just die. Tammy died in his arms. Um, and that is just devastating. And let's not forget the sheer weight of his fame. Think about it. Constantly having to produce hits to live up to this image. It's a crushing burden, an absolutely crushing burden. And the lifestyle that came with it, the parties, the constant exposure, it all played a role in normalizing and fueling his drug use. And that drug it was especially cocaine. Plus his relationships, they were often rocky, which added fuel to the fire.
Yeah, I mean, it is the 70s and 80s. you know, cocaine's everywhere in the 70s or 80s.
Cocaine.
What a time to be alive, right? Right? Got a whole song about it.
Entire song about it.
Yeah, so marital problems and the general instability in his personal life just piled more stress onto what is already a fragile situation. Um, what started perhaps as something casual, a way to cope, quickly spiraled out of control. And by the late 70s, it wasn't just a problem, it was a full blown addiction that was tearing his life apart, affecting his health, his finances, his relationship. Don't do drugs, kids. Okay. It doesn't go well. Right. It's, even the most talented and successful individuals can struggle with addiction. I think that's what it's a reminder to us all about. Like addiction is no one's above it, no matter what.
Nope.
So, and I'm especially when you're a musician, right? Like everybody's there to have a good time. So you have that anyway. So Marvin obviously found himself in a very bad financial situation. And so between that, he's going through 2 divorces somehow at the same time. I don't really understand, but he was going through 2 at the same time. He decided that he was going to flee the US and live in total seclusion in England and Belgium. He felt that by leaving the United States, he could find the peace and privacy that he craved and hopefully, get his life back on track. I imagine, being in that business for as many, at this point, decades as he was, like it's wears you down, and then being super famous on top of that. So he was able to find a creative streak and some peace. And during this time, he wrote probably the album he's known for the most, Sexual Healing, which led to his career comeback. All right. CBS bought out his contract from Motown, and Marvin had his comeback with Sexual Healing and Midnight Love. So after that period in Europe, the time of trying to rebuild and find some peace, Marvin eventually made the decision to come back to the United States. You can like almost feel the weight of that decision, right? Like he has to tour again, his family's there. And with his relationship with his mom, I feel like that was probably like the biggest reason for him coming back, to be quite honest with you. I mean, the money and fame helps too, but
like at the same time, and we didn't really focus on this because it wasn't like, it really wasn't the focus of everything, but he moved to Europe because he was a tax exile in the 80s. He owed up to $4.5 million in taxes. And by the time he died, he owed nearly $9 million. So this is something that did keep him over there. And then as soon as he made that hit, and that's really what kind of kept him recording songs after songs, was to kind of get this money. But finally he hit that hit and they said, come on back, and blah, blah. So he did.
And cocaine's expensive as shit. Also, it sounds like he didn't have a good financial advisor, but that's a thing that I feel like not a lot of celebrities, some celebrities in the past have struggled with their taxes and things like that. Anyway, so him coming back, like it wasn't just a simple homecoming, it was probably a lot of complex feelings of hope and, this lingering turmoil, So he had the incredible resurgence with Sexual Healing, proving he still had that magic, though, and that ability to connect with audiences. But the demons he'd been battling weren't easily left behind at all. He was still dealing with the fallout of his addiction and the emotional scars and the ongoing struggles with his personal life. Like he was back, but he wasn't back, So
yeah, like his corporeal being was back, but his mind was elsewhere. Which is really sad to know now, especially with this picture up, because he just looks so damn happy about it. But who knows how happy he actually was, because it sure didn't seem like it.
And you got to keep in mind too, everyone, like the time frame we're in here. Okay, mental health is not hardly anybody. There's no such thing really, unless you are like certifiably like, talking about depression and suicide and things like that were not something you did in the 70s, 80s, let alone probably as a member of the Black community. It's not talked about, so it's not like, oh, well, he could have just gotten some help. It's sure for the addiction he could have, but all the other stuff, I don't really think it was an option for him at this time, a realistic one.
Right. No, yeah, absolutely. 100%. When his tour ended in 1983 in August, he actually returned home in order to take care of his mom. She was recovering from kidney surgery, which should also tell you about how much he valued his mom. just coming off sexual healing and the tour, and he said, "I'm moving home, and I'm going to take care of mom."
All about his
Which is
mother.
amazing.
All about his
Yes.
mom.
So he moved into his parents' place at 2101 South Gramercy Place. That's the home he bought for them. He's actually, by this point, he's bought 2 homes for them and a bunch of other stuff. But he bought that for them 10 years earlier. Now, while he was staying there, his father was pretty much absent. He just wasn't there. And in October of that year, his dad returned from a business trip. I think the business part of it was the insurance part, but he went to DC where he purchased insurance on his family's previous home there. Now, if it gives you any idea of what it was like, Marvin's 2 sisters, Jean and Zola, or Ziola, lived in the house before Senior returned. And they promptly moved out because of the growing conflict between Senior and Junior when he came back. They left.
I'm sure it was great.
Oh, yeah, it has to be so happy. On top of everything else going on, and I mean everything else going on, Marvin was struggling with that addiction. And his battle with addiction and his mental health spiraled into a dark, chaotic storm. He should have been able to count. So the thing for me is that he should have been able to count on some solitude at home. It should have been a place where he could be Marvin, but it wasn't any better at home. He couldn't do that either. And his cocaine use was on and off for years. He ramped it up a ton after his 82 comeback. He became increasingly erratic, and he was consumed by paranoia due to this. He was convinced people were out to kill him. And some of the things that he did, he started wearing a bulletproof vest off stage. He had armed bodyguards with him constantly. During a performance, he insisted lighting be adjusted because he thought someone in the audience might shoot him. He held a televised press conference in 1983 claiming someone was trying to poison him. And he sometimes put on 3 overcoats and would also put his shoes on the wrong foot or feet. His paranoia, which was not assisted at all by the cocaine, became all-encompassing. Yeah. He was addicted, deeply depressed. He had unchecked delusions. And from August of 1983 up until around March or April of 84, Marvin and his father had a hard time keeping their distance from each other. During one fight at the house in late 1983, his dad actually called the police to have Marvin leave the property. And Marvin ended up staying with one of his sisters until he returned to his parents' house. Is
that from my wine pour, Jaded Wonder? She said Tara's providing some ASMR. So my mic picks up everything.
No, it is what it is. It's totally fine. But Marvin ended up staying with one of his sisters until he returned home. And he told his friend, quote, "After all, I have just one father. I want to make peace with him." I mean, I get
Talk
it.
About a man that doesn't deserve any forgiveness.
All.
That's Senior I'm talking about here. Because F that guy. But
so Marvin gave his Christmas Day, 1983. Marvin actually gave his father a Smith & Wesson 38 Special pistol so that he could protect himself from intruders. Now, by this point, Marvin was suicidal and paranoid. He was afraid to leave his room and spoke of little else other than suicide and death.
I don't understand why he bought this gun for his dad. Like, would you buy a gun for your abuser? Like, I know he's all coked out of his mind right now, but like, why would you buy who's an older guy at this point? Like, what?
Yeah. There's 2 trains of thought on this. One, he bought it for the reason he bought it. But his siblings and other people, a good chunk of other people, think that he bought this for his father because he knew at some point his father was going to use it on him and he was suicidal. And it was kind of like suicide by cop, but it was his dad.
Yeah.
And so there is that thought. That seems to almost be agreed upon, but I'm not sure. I don't know. We don't know enough about that.
Anyway, everyone can have their guns in their house all you want, but like if you're living with somebody who's abusing you, who has a history of abuse, violent, do not bring a gun to that house because it's not going to go well for you. You're not going to use it the way that you think. All right. It's way more dangerous to have a gun in the house in that sort of volatile situation. So
Yes. And 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 Marvin was, I mean, he was suicidal 4 days before he died on March 28th, 1983. He attempted to kill himself by jumping out of a speeding sports car. Now, I don't know what angel was with him that day because he only suffered minor bruises. Like Iron Man. But that was just 4 days before. His sister said that there wasn't a doubt that he wanted to die and he couldn't take anymore. And honestly, I wonder if he would have felt that way if his home, like I had mentioned, if it wasn't contentious or abusive with that father-son war every single day.
I'm sure it didn't help.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because he probably, I mean, he's a grown-ass man by now, but like, I'm sure with those dynamics, like, it's actually a lot different than we may think. Like, he probably kind of reverted a little bit back into his childhood self.
Yeah.
It's a very complicated dynamic we have going on here.
It is, and the fact that his father didn't change, grow, mature, or get better means that Marvin goes back to what he was under the roof of that man. So March 31st, 1984, Senior was looking for an insurance document, and he couldn't find it. And I think it has to do with the insurance on the house in D.C. But he got into a tiff with Alberta about it, which Marvin did not like. And the arguments between Senior and Alberta spread to Marvin and to his bedroom. And Marvin was angry. Marvin was pissed that his dad was confronting his mom in the way he was, and Marvin asked his dad to leave her alone. Senior, at that point, did comply, and there wasn't any violence that night, but Marvin continued, Senior continued to yell throughout the house. Now, April 1st, 1984, at 12:30 p.m. on April 1st, Marvin Sr. shouted upstairs to his wife about the document again. And Marvin shouted downstairs and told his dad that if he had something to say, he should do it in person. He should come up and talk like a human being. And at that point, Marvin's in his robe, which, I think we can all connect with. Just being in a robe.
Always.
Right. So Senior refused his request. Marvin warned him not to come into his room. Senior chose to run upstairs, and he started yelling at Alberta again about the missing document in Marvin's room. So Marvin said, "Don't yell at mom." So he decided, like a 2-year-old, to go exactly to where the person saying "don't yell" is and yell, doing the complete opposite of what he said, right?
Always works.
Right. So Marvin jumped out of his bed and ordered his father out of the room. This is a grown-ass adult, right? A 6'1" grown-ass adult saying, "Get out of my room." And the order didn't work. So Marvin shoved his father out of the room into the hallway, and admittedly shouldn't have continued on with kicking and punching, but did. Alberta said 2 quotes that pretty much sum the rest of this up. She said, "Marvin hit him. I shouted for him to stop, but he paid no attention to me. He gave my husband some hard kicks." Senior went to his room to grab the .38 special that Marvin got him. And Alberta says, "I was standing about 8 feet away from Marvin when my husband came to the door of the bedroom with his pistol. My husband didn't say anything. He just pointed the gun at Marvin. I screamed, but it wasn't very quick. But it was very quick. He, my husband, shot, and Marvin screamed. I tried to run. Marvin slid down to the floor after the first shot."
In that house, when he talks about his bedroom, he actually slept in the same room as Alberta, which is kind of weird, but like also it seems weird, but considering all the trauma and the dynamics, like that makes sense. And I guess like her and Senior, like they hadn't even slept in the same bedroom in like 10 years. Like they were basically like not together. In case anyone was wondering, like, why are they in like others' room and stuff? Like, what's going on here? But
yeah, I think it was a combination. I think you're right. I think he wanted to make sure his mom was protected. I think also she was recovering from that kidney
yes,
operation, so
yeah,
he
he
was
almost
also
lost his
helping her with
mom
that. Yeah, that's
because that
a
fuck face
big
wasn't
thing
going
for
to
them
do
to.
it.
No, and he wasn't even there for half the time.
No,
So yeah, I think that you're right.
yeah.
He was. So yep.
So I think that was like him also another reason why he was very confrontational with Senior as well in that moment is because like his love and protection of his mother was up front and center. You know what I mean? But anyway, okay. So the shooting took place around 12:38 p.m. Marvin Sr. had fired the first shot into his son Marvin and then walked over to him and fired another shot point blank into his chest. Okay. Because he's a world's greatest dad over here. World's greatest dad. So Marvin's brother, Frankie, ran towards the sounds of the shots while his wife called 911. And the paramedics refused to go into the house until Marvin Sr. told them where the gun was. And the gun was hidden under Marvin Sr.'s pillow because, of course, that's the best place to hide anything.
Sure.
Right. You know, and that is typical, by the way, if you don't know, that is typical of EMT not entering a premises. If there's a gun, they will not enter no matter what until police have secured that location, period. And that could very well be the reason why it didn't help. We'll just put it that way. I don't want to say, I don't know the autopsy, so I don't want to say that like he had a chance. Well, he probably didn't, to be quite honest, but it didn't help.
Yeah, I mean that point blank shot hit the wrong place, you know. And I don't know if there was a shot, but the fact that he wouldn't tell them and then that kept the paramedics from going in is very indicative of the fact that at some point he did think about this and how to be a little difficult.
Hide the gun, cover his tracks. Oh, wait till you guys get to a lot of you are about to be fired up in about 5 minutes, by the way. So all right, so Marvin was taken to the hospital and was pronounced dead at 1:01 p.m. The world was in shock to learn that Marvin had been shot by his own father and saddened by the fact that a man with so much talent was gone. But seriously, with Marvin still fighting his drug addiction and his father a functioning alcoholic who we also know was an abuser living in the same house with a gun, it was really only a matter of time before things really started to boil over, unfortunately. You know, Marvin's bodyguard Andre White had told an author that the shooting was a suicide, as JT said earlier, like a suicide by cop situation, except suicide by his dad, which is incredibly sad when you think about that. Marvin had wanted to kill himself, you know, the month before, but I'm sorry. This is what Andre said. Andre said Marvin had wanted to kill himself the month before, but he did not have the guts, so he got his dad to shoot him. All right, I'm not happy with the way Andre worded that. It's not appropriate, Andre, but this is those times, you guys. All right. So Marvin Sr. had told his son, Marvin Sr., this wonderful guy, had told his son, if you ever raise a hand to me, I will kill you.
He told Marvin, he told all the siblings, he told his wife. They all attested to the fact that he said that.
Mm-hmm. You guys all remember this in just a few minutes. You remember all this bullshit, okay, guys? So Marvin's fans, of course, the whole world really, started to mourn his loss at a memorial service in Hollywood Hills that is said to have had over 10,000 people in attendance. Smokey Robinson and Stevie Wonder both delivered the eulogies for their friend, and Marvin was cremated and his ashes were scattered into the Pacific Ocean. So Marvin Sr. was arrested after killing his son while sitting on his front porch, and he was charged with first-degree murder. Right? We all know what first-degree murder is, right? A little premeditated. You have to have some premeditation in there, and he's shown. Now, some people think premeditation means a lot of long-term thinking. No, that's not what it means. There's several examples of premeditation that I just said to you guys in this. Okay.
See.
The delaying of the gun, hiding the gun, threatening like I will kill you, all that shit. All right, all works. He knew the one person that never wanted him could kill him. Yeah. It's like I said, you sit and think about it for a few minutes. Holy shit. It's some dark, deep stuff, you know. So, and get this, all right, if Senior wasn't an asshole enough, okay, in a jailhouse interview, Marvin Sr. told a reporter that, quote, I pulled the trigger and the first one didn't seem to bother him, so I fired again. That's called premeditation, you guys, right there. There's one example. You don't even need that many examples of it for a case, okay? There you go.
There's a lot of shit that he says after being arrested where you're just like, what the fuck? So Senior was held at Los Angeles County Jail on $100,000 bail.
Which, by the way, I did do the math. That's only $311,000 in today's money. That's
which it. A bond is 10%, right?
Can be.
I think, isn't it? Isn't like, yeah. Okay. So according to him, he only pulled the trigger after he was attacked, and he thought there were BBs or blanks in there, in which case I give it 4 massive eye rolls.
What about the second shot? Did the first one look like a BB or a blank to you, Senior? No. Get out of here.
Well, and he also said that he said that, I don't know if I even put it in here, but he said that he shot and Marvin continued towards him. So he shot again when he was in the hall retreating. But the autopsy showed very much different, which was he got shot in the shoulder. And then the next one was point blank and Marvin was on the bed. So he approached his son on the bed to shoot him a second time. Sorry, buddy. Here, if you're not pissed yet. At the same time, when detectives asked if he loved his son, his response was, and I quote, let's say I didn't dislike him.
Oh, father of the freaking year over here. God, I hate this guy. Gets me fired up. I hate this guy so much. Yeah. I hate what happens.
During the period in which the trial was coming together, Senior went through a checkup, as one does, you know, for being in jail at the County USC Medical Center.
He's what, like 70 at this point?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Around 70 years old.
They found a benign tumor at the base of his brain. Now, this was removed on May 17th, 84, probably at the taxpayer dollar. But on June 12th, Judge Michael Perosh reviewed 2 psychiatric evaluations and ruled that Senior was competent to stand trial. He was ordered to return on July 16th for a prelim hearing. After everything, and after divorcing him literally the day he shot Marvin, it was Alberta who posted the reduced bail of $30,000. Again, it was only 2 days earlier. Sorry, it wasn't the same time, but it was only 2 days earlier that she filed to divorce him before she paid that bail.
Yeah, which is crazy. Lady Gray says the father's childhood would be interesting to know. We did cover that a little bit. He too was from a very abusive family. I mean, 13 kids, abusive father. It wasn't good. But and Alberta as well. Actually, she also came from an abusive family where like her dad like would shoot off shots at her mom and crazy things. It was not a good time for either one of them. You know, while Alberta was never ever reported to be abusive to the children, I think seeing what she saw as a young girl might have made Senior's behavior normalized in a sense, you know, like to her, like that's what she saw from her parents. Like, so why? Because she was what, 20 when she met him? Like,
Yeah.
she's a baby, you know, and she had a
Yeah.
kid. Oh, oh God, I hate it so much. Anyway, let's
I
go
know.
on and get more angry. Let's go.
So as judges are wont to do, Judge Ronald M. George, which is quite the Happy Days name, reviewed the documents of the case. He saw the amount of drugs in Marvin's system, and he saw the pictures of Senior's injuries during the final fight with his son. Now, due to this, Senior was granted the ability to plea bargain. On September 20th,
He should have
1984, he
kicked him
pleaded no
harder.
contest.
He should have
Yeah.
kicked him a whole lot harder. Sorry.
Yeah. No, you're not wrong. On September 20th, 1984, he pleaded no contest to a voluntary manslaughter charge.
Yes, from first degree murder, you guys, to voluntary manslaughter because of the amount of cocaine that was in Gay's system, that he was too scary for this jackass.
I'm sorry, but like,
who
cocaine,
beat kids and women sober. Well, he was an alcoholic, but still.
Yeah, the forensics say that he lied. The cocaine, I'm sorry, but cocaine doesn't stop a bullet. So I'm not exactly sure what that mattered, to be honest. If he lied about the order of shots and the way that happened, then he probably lied about a good chunk of other things too. So how are we to consider his testimony reasonable or not? So I don't know what this judge was doing. Anyways, so during the sentencing hearing, yeah.
Mind explosion.
So November 2nd, Judge Gordon Ringer sentenced him to a grand total of 6-year suspended sentence and 5 years of probation.
What? What?
During the sentencing hearing, Senior said the following. And I have a rant right after this. He said, quote, "If I could bring him back, I would. I was afraid of him. I thought I was going to get hurt. I didn't know what was going to happen. I'm really sorry for everything that happened. I loved him. I wish he could step through this door right now. I'm paying the price now."
Does anybody believe that? Does anyone believe that?
At first, no, you wouldn't. You're in trouble, but not really. You're not really paying a price. What you got was a free operation out of it. I'm pissed. He created Marvin both initially, like, and through the early years of his life. He created that singer. He brought him to church to sing in front of people. He paraded him around, and just because it's non-liturgical music, he's got a problem all of a sudden. He caused some of the reaction that he had. Now, what was Marvin supposed to think when he came into his room? That he was going to sit down for a powwow? I really don't think so. I don't think so. There was a gun in his hand. I don't think so. Legally, the reaction was strong, and there was plenty of public debate. It seemed many thought the adequacy of the punishment was an issue, even given the circumstances that were testified to. I would say so. Now, in addition, like I said, I did mention this earlier, but I'll just say it one more time. The first shot, despite some reports, went to his shoulder and knocked him down. The second shot, the fatal one, was shot point blank range, which means his father approached Marvin. That means to me, he had a moment to think about what he was going to do. So even now, decades later, it's really hard for me to justify the judge's sentencing, even though he was an older man who had a brain tumor. He still got up, got his gun, shot his son, approached again, and shot again.
Yeah. You know, and I don't particularly care for his bitching of, "Oh, I was afraid. He hurt me," after he spent years hurting his family. And you little coward, you are a coward, Senior, disgusting little man. Just disgusting. I'm so angry because again, I knew that Marvin was murdered by his father. I had no idea that his father was like, because 70 is not, I mean, some people consider 70 old. 70 is not that old. Okay. He had a brain tumor. That wasn't what was making him be an asshole for the last 70 years. Okay. Like,
Nope.
I cannot believe a suspended sentence and just probation for that. And, I guess if Marvin was thinking like suicide by dad, he didn't get justice if that was his case. Like, if that's what he was trying to do to punish his father from the grave, I don't know. But like, the fact that this man abused 4 children, his wife, is a garbage freaking human being, murders his son, literally in cold blood. Okay. The first shot is your one self-defense. That's it. You get one. You went back to him and shot him in your chest. Your namesake, nonetheless. Your namesake. What a disgusting, disgusting little man. Rant over. I hope he's in a not great place. I don't like him.
Oh, guaranteed.
Hate that guy.
Freaking guaranteed.
What a garbage guy. And he had everything. His son paid for everything for him. He couldn't hold a job.
Oh, yeah.
He was worthless.
Yep.
He's a worthless trash person.
His son bought his dad a caddy to make up, which he didn't need to make up. Marvin didn't need to make up with his dad. His dad needed to make up with him. And the fact that Marvin thought that he was the problem is just it's
so sad.
Perfect. It's just a perfect example of somebody who is abused like that, thinking that they're the issue. And I'm going to be honest with you. It pisses me off that it wasn't until Marvin was dead and his dad was on the docket that they cared about Marvin's depression and suicide. Nobody cared about it before he was shot. Nobody gave a shit about how Marvin felt. All of a sudden, Marvin took 2 bullets and they're saying, exactly. They're saying that because he was suicidal, it wasn't that big of a deal. Well, I just can't. It makes me so angry. So,
just because he had talked about wanting to die does not mean it is okay to murder him. Those are 2 very different things. And we don't know if it was suicide by dad or not. That's the thing, is I kind of wonder if maybe it actually wasn't that. I know a lot of people think that, and maybe when he bought the gun, it was. But again, he moved back home to take care of his dying mother, who is now alive. All right. She's had, her kidneys are back working. She was on to live for like a while. He moved back to take care of her. Why would he want to die leaving her with his father? I just wonder if, I don't know. I don't know about that. I don't know why it happened. It's all so sad. Anyway.
It's senseless. Now, here are some of the reactions from friends and folks that we've heard of and that he knew. And before I do that, the saddest part of all of this is that some folks thought it was a joke, that it couldn't be real. And the reason for that is because it happened on April 1st, which is April Fool's Day. It's like the worst time to be murdered.
Time.
Not that there's a good time, but you know what I mean. Otis Williams from The Temptations said, "It was a very dark day that I will never forget as the day I lost a friend." Smokey Robinson heard the news and said that he felt his innards wouldn't accept the news.
It's a weird way
Jermaine
to say that.
Jackson.
Sure,
I know, yeah, it is weird, but he's right. So one of Marvin's wives was an aunt to Jermaine Jackson. So Jermaine Jackson, who was a former nephew-in-law, sobbed uncontrollably once he heard the news. Yes. And he called Barry White, which, you know what? That is a crazy sentence to read. Jermaine Jackson heard the news and called Barry White to confirm the story. Yeah. VH1 ended up listing his death as the 8th most shocking moment in rock and roll.
I think it's pretty darn shocking. I don't know what. Thank you. I did find that. I don't know what death is actually more. Now that I know about this one, this is extremely shocking. Like, I'm gonna go with I bet Elvis or Cobain is probably number 1. Would be my guess, because it's VH1 and this is from like the aughts. But I couldn't imagine the devastation in the community.
before I continue, it's really interesting to see some photos because you can tell some things were developed for a standard TV and not widescreen. This is one of
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
So, in addition to that, full page ads were taken out following his funeral, declaring that he was, quote, the greatest of his time. I would say one of the greatest of all time. Um, After his death, the home at Gramercy Place had memorabilia and other items on the lawn. Vigils were held there until the next day, which was, we didn't say this yet, but April 2nd was Marvin's birthday.
If you're paying attention.
He was killed the day
That's right.
before.
The day before his 45th birthday? 44? I don't know. I'm not the best at math. But yeah, the day before his birthday. Just
So
by his own father.
And then yeah.
It's like a Greek tragedy
And
over
like
there.
you know, a lot of bands, a lot of individual artists released a lot of songs in memory of him. Diana Ross was one of those people who released Missing You as a tribute to Marvin. And there's just, you know, we can say what we will about cocaine and addiction, but the bottom line is ultimately Marvin was a good guy. He was a good guy. I mean, cocaine doesn't make you a bad guy. Just because you were an addiction doesn't make you a bad person. It means you're struggling. But a lot of times, you know, I mean, there are. It just seems like he was a nice dude.
You know what? He wasn't.
You know?
He wasn't his fucking dad. Okay,
for real.
As far as I know, I haven't read everything on Marvin, but like at least when it comes to like, and he may not have been like the greatest partner. I mean, he obviously had relationship issues with multiple divorces and
Sure.
kids, but like he wasn't like his father in the sense that, you know, he loved and he it's just so freaking sad.
I just saw it, but that flower arrangement to the right says "Love Diana Ross."
I know, right? You can tell me I did a good job later. I know, right? It's so sad.
You did a good job later. I'll tell you right now in front of everybody in the world. You did a great job.
Oh, anyway, so let's talk about the legacy and cultural aspect of Martin while we wrap up here. Okay, so Marvin Gaye was a transformative figure in soul and R&B, obviously, and he earned the moniker of Prince of Soul without a doubt. He was posthumously inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Shout out Ohio. In 1987. Yeah, I will shout out Ohio every chance I get. We have the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. What you got? Nothing. Just kidding.
A lot of issues.
So he was inducted in 1987, which I don't know a lot about inductions, but that seems pretty close to his time of death, which usually it seems to take a really long time, even posthumously, to be recognized by them. So like, it seemed like he kind of made it in there pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But it was the 80s, so I don't know.
So a lot of things regarding the induction process, it just seems like there's a lot of politics involved. A lot of people get frustrated with that whole situation.
Yeah.
But
I don't know if it was like that in the 80s, though. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean,
it's
trying
to
find the list of the inductees for 1987 that.
Okay, well, while you look for that, let me continue on.
Yeah, keep going.
Okay, so Gaye used his music as a platform for activism, addressing systemic injustice, inequality, and the Black experience in America. His work inspired generations of artists to infuse their music with purpose and protest. Remember what's going on? His great anti-war anthem there. So Stevie Wonder praised Marvin as a musical prophet, which is saying something, okay? And often cited Marvin freaking Gaye as a deep influence on his own evolution as an artist. Stevie freaking Wonder, like, amazing. Prince credited Marvin Gaye as a major influence on both his vocal style and lyrical depth. I mean, numerous artists across genres, from Alicia Keys to Usher, have paid tribute to his legacy and in their music and performances. Like, I mean, Stevie Wonder and Prince, like that's pretty good.
It's
there.
massive. Yeah, so 1987, Aretha Franklin was inducted, Marvin Gaye,
Okay.
Bill Haley from Bill Haley and the Comets, and B.B.
Okay.
King. So that was quite the soulful year, for real. And it was that's pretty. I mean, that's pretty damn appropriate. So,
sense.
wait, hold on, somebody copied and pasted. Oh, would you look at this? This also included the Coasters. Bo Diddley was in there. I'm trying to see other people that might. Ricky Nelson, Roy Orbison. Yeah. Smokey Robinson. Muddy Waters, T-Bone Walker, Hank Williams, a bunch of people. So that was
that makes a lot of sense. Then that makes a lot of sense why they gave him that year, considering we learned that he worked with like 4 of those people. So that does make sense now why he was inducted, not induced. We're not having a baby over here. Anyway.
Could be, might be. Who knows? Feels like it sometimes.
Oh goodness. Anyway, so Marvin Gaye's death left a lasting scar. Okay, it redefined what it means to lose a hero. Right? It gave a famous, beloved face, because he was a cute kid and a good-looking gentleman. Always.
He was a very good-looking guy.
I did not find a bad photo of him. Like, he was
not a bad photo.
I'm just saying, I know why this guy wrote a lot of like love songs, if you know what I mean.
And a lot of people wanted to listen to him from him.
Right. But like, listen, it gave a face to often the hidden realities of generational trauma, domestic violence, and unresolved pain within families. Okay. For survivors of abuse, it was probably validating, but also triggering all at once. For the public, it was a moment of reckoning, because how does the public deal with not only a superstar being murdered by their father, but then they also find out about Marvin's struggles, right? This hero turns out to be a flawed one with addiction and mental health issues and suicidal ideation. That's a lot to take in, at the time. But, Marvin Gaye wasn't just a musician. I know we talked a lot about it tonight, but he wasn't. But he was, within his music, he was a messenger, okay? His voice carried the weight of civil rights, heartache, spirituality, and social change. His music spoke truth, pain, and healing. I mean, those are like some of the titles of the songs now that I think about it. And then in a moment, all right, in one little moment, that voice was silenced, not by an enemy, but by family, which is statistically usually what happens. But it's the fact that it was by someone who should have protected him. No, I mean, oh God, I hate Senior so much. I don't even want to say his stupid name anymore. Let's not talk about him anymore. But anyway, okay. Marvin Gaye's death reminds us that domestic violence doesn't discriminate. All right. It doesn't matter your social class, your education, your race, your sex, your gender, your sexuality. None of that matters. Okay. When it comes to domestic violence, period. Domestic violence steals futures, it silences voices, and leaves millions of us grieving over someone we never personally knew, but somehow feel deeply connected to. Okay, I will say after researching Marvin, and his success and his failures, his life failures, like I feel like I know him a lot more and that I can relate to him so much. Mm-hmm. And I think so many people around the world, and even as, he's been dead for I'm going to say my age here, but I was born the year after he's 41 years ago. Shut up, JT. Nobody asked you.
I was I was doing the math before you said birthdays. In fairness,
I'm just kidding because
slow.
I was like, I was born like a year later. So that's why I was like, shut up, don't do the
Yeah,
math.
but see, you look like you're 26, so you're fine, okay?
Well, thank you. It is the big 4-0 this year, you guys. But, to this day, when we hear what's going on, or Mercy, Mercy Me, another beautiful song by him, it's impossible not to feel the weight of both his genius and his loss. We mourn not just what we lost, but like how we lost it. Like, what if he never bought his dad that gun? What if he didn't live with his parents? What if he would have gotten his mom away from his dad? It's a whole lot of what ifs. And I am not victim blaming, okay? Because this situation was complex AF. Like, it was some deep psychological trauma, crazy. I don't even know if anybody actually could have. I don't think Alberta and Marvin could have done those things, to be perfectly honest with you. Okay. But, we must remember him not only for the music he gave us, but for the pain he endured. Okay. And we must carry forward the conversation he started, about love, about justice, and most importantly, about healing. Because when Marvin Gaye died, the music didn't just stop. It was stolen from all of us. And the silence it left behind still echoes today, in my opinion. So,
Yeah,
that's
and
that.
I mean, I like what you said, about the messages and healing, but not just healing, sexual healing.
It was so hard not to make that
Um,
joke while I was saying that word. I was like, Tara, this is wildly inappropriate. Don't do it. Don't do it.
Unintended. Um, so just listen, we hear, obviously you can tell we're very passionate about some of these things. Now, domestic violence is absolutely devastating, and it is often, it's a silent epidemic that affects individuals of all backgrounds, regardless of age, gender, socioeconomic status. It thrives in secrecy and fear, leaving survivors feeling isolated and powerless. But it is important to remember that abuse is never justified and help is available. Speaking up can save lives. And if you or someone is experiencing domestic violence, please reach out for support. You can contact National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-SAFE, which is 7233, or you can visit thehotline.org for confidential help 24/7. One of my favorite things that they've added, you wish you didn't have to, but you're not always alone to call, and some people control phones.
Yes.
But you can text BEGIN to 88788. No one, I repeat, no one deserves to live in fear, and everyone has the right to feel safe in their own homes at all times. So please, 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 heed that. If there's anything that you've heard tonight, hear that from us.
Yeah, and I'll just say real quick, Marvin's story is not a unique one. Okay, the statistics are not in anyone's favor when it comes to domestic issues. Okay, so find some safety. There are people to help, because we don't want to cover your story. To be quite honest, like, let's avoid having to cover your story on a True Crime and Wine Time, please. Okay.
I want to see you at a live show. I don't want to see you in the newspaper.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, to kind of close out from both of us, listen, for me, in the end, the story of Marvin Gaye's life and death, it's as heartbreaking as it is infuriating. A musical genius was brought down not just by fame and addiction and inner demons, but ultimately by the very person who should have protected him. It's really hard not to wonder what might have been if Marvin had found the peace and life that his music brought to millions. And while it's tempting to side-eye Marvin Gaye Sr.'s suspended sentence and quietly mutter, "Really?" under our breath,
Oh, I will loudly
and
say
honestly,
it.
I will sign off on it. We're ultimately left grappling with a much larger, messier truth that trauma breeds trauma. It's not an
Mhm.
excuse, it's an explanation. I like to say that. It is not an excuse, it's an explanation. Trauma breeds trauma. Silence protects absolutely no one. And even icons can fall victim to the same cycle that many others do. And
Mhm.
I hope ultimately, and I think Marvin would think this too, I hope that his legacy is a reminder of the brilliance he gave us, but also the darkness that too often goes unspoken.
Yeah. I don't I don't have much in the way of closing thoughts because like I feel like I've already said a lot of things. But also, I'm still like, as I said, I just learned about all this, and much like some of you guys probably, like I'm still processing this whole situation because it's not a black and white situation. Was this a suicide by dad situation? Like it's just so it's a lot that I'm going to be thinking about for a while. But I just want to end. I'll end with this. All right. So Marvin's greatest question was always, what's going on? And perhaps that's the question we all must keep asking about abuse, about violence, about what we carry and what we pass on to the next generation, and about forgiveness. And that's all I really have to say about that. I hope you
For now.
guys.
We'll find something
For
else,
now,
I'm sure.
I'm sure anybody that is in the Discord tomorrow will just hear me ranting about about senior, because I can't believe that. It blows my freaking mind. But anyway, thank you guys for all coming to the show. Don't forget, okay, this Sunday at 9 p.m. Eastern, if you enjoyed my presence, maybe you haven't heard me before, but I'm on with JT and Terry on Sundays, where we cover the Zizian cult. You guys, it's freaking crazy. So be sure to watch us Sunday at 9 p.m. Eastern for part 5, the Curtis Lynn tale. And you thought I was teeny bit worked up? You guys, I'm gonna be worked up on Sunday. Okay.
I have been reading the notes and I am worked up. But also we do have a special guest and you'll have to wait to find out who that is.
We do have a special guest. Yes.
Super special. Yeah.
Now, if you guys have, we cover all sorts of cases here on True Crime and Wine Time. So if you guys have any case suggestions, like we are always open to hearing them and we might prioritize them. So if you have one, go ahead and email me at Tara, Tara, at TCWmedia, TCWTmedia.com. And just send me your case suggestions and we'll look into it and probably add it to the schedule. It might be a few months, but we'll get there.
Yeah. And I mean, if you're listening on the podcast, same thing goes for you. Send Tara an email, Tara at TCWTmedia.com. Just because you're not watching on YouTube, if you're interested in a case and you want to hear us cover it, we will cover it because you're going to get the audio version. It might not have the visuals, but that's okay.
We love our potties. Is that what they're called? Potties? That's not... And now everyone has unsubscribed. I've ruined the channel. Wait, hold on. You guys can't see this, but look. JT, open your eyeballs. Open your eyeballs and look backstage. Amy is holding up a sign that says, I quit.
Yeah, no, I saw that a little bit earlier while you were doing your concluding bit. And she's not allowed. I'm refusing the informal quitting. No, but honestly, in my 5 years of podcasting, I've never heard them called that by anybody.
Potties.
At all, ever. Potties.
Potties. Sorry,
but I will say this.
Just insulted your whole audience.
Having called you potties and live streamies, please like and subscribe and hit the notification bell. Becoming a member. If you are listening to this while working or driving to work on Apple or Spotify, please go and give us 5 stars. That's going to help the podcast gods get us more listeners into more listeners' ears and hopefully be seen by more listeners' eyes. The more, the better. Now, I want to tell you the channel is going to be taking our own version of spring break next week.
Spring break, woohoo!
There's going to be. I know, right?
It's an Arrested Development joke for you guys that are just listening with no visuals. But go ahead.
Honestly, I think our people are going to become called potties. Terry might have something to say about that later. Anyways, there's going to be no Midday Missing or our Thursday True Crime and Wine Time show next week, but we will be back the following Sunday, April 13th at 9 p.m. Eastern to continue our Zizians Unveiled coverage. So, this Sunday, excuse me.
I'm sorry, go ahead. My apologies. I was just going to let everybody know because I forgot when True Crime and Wine Time does resume back. We will be covering the missing case of Trevor Neely from Ireland. I'm pretty sure. It's you guys, I'm excited to start getting into it. It's unsolved. We don't cover a lot of mystery cases. So there's
a lot of rabbit holes in this.
This is a big deal. That's what we'll be back with in 2 weeks on Thursday for.
There's a lot of leprechaun holes in that one. Okay. That's like the worst Irish accent ever.
We're canceled.
I canceled myself. So again, we will have Zizians this Sunday and then nothing until the following Sunday because we'll be on our spring break and everybody needs some time to reform their brain from melting after this many weeks. So yeah. Tara, do you want to give us the old sign off?
Yes. With that, I want to say thank you to everyone that came here tonight for being with us and listening to me instead of the wonderful and glorious Terry. I'm so thankful she asked me to fill in with her. I hope I did a good job and made her proud. But until next time, go forth and be amazing. Finger hearts in the chat.
Yes. Man. Thank you so much for tuning in. Take care of yourselves, your friends, family, community. Do not let anybody dull that sparkle. Don't. Shine brightly no matter what. Shine on. Shine on, you crazy, and I mean it, crazy diamonds. All of you. You do that and I can't do a diamond. How do I do a diamond? Like that? No.
You love wrestling and you don't know how to do a diamond?
Oh yeah, the diamond cutter. Yeah, I guess I could do that. Sure.
JT.
It's been a long day. It's been a long day, Tara. It's been a long day. You know what?
Oh my goodness.
Shine on, you crazy diamonds. All right. We will see you
Bye,
on
guys.
Sunday.